Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a fabulous Wednesday. I'm sure many are counting down as we near the end of the school year. It's coming quickly, and that really is the focus of today's webinar is wrapping up the school year in Canvas. This is our final webinar of the year. We've been doing webinars on a couple Wednesdays a month this year, and really our focus has been on building digital literacy skills. There's 5 different areas, domains of digital literacy skills that we are focusing on at the district for both our staff and our students. And so a lot of these are focusing on strengthening capacity in relation to digital tools, since we've really been thrown into heavily using them this year. For today's training, we're celebrating that summer is almost here, school's going to be out. I am Michelle Coots, the Instructional Technology Specialist for the district, and I am joined by Katie Parrott. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Katie Parrott, and I am a full-time online teacher for the Deer Valley Online Learning Program, soon to be Aspire Academy.
Yes, very exciting about the new name. All right, I'm going to put the slides into the chat because there are going to be links as we go through the presentation today. And if you want to be able to click on those, access them, refer back to these slides, now you have that link and can get to it. So today, our focus is on the end of the school year. And we have a teacher guide that is linked here, and it goes through these 3 simple steps for the end of the school year. We're also going to go through those steps in today's webinar and talk through each of them and some considerations. In addition to this webinar, which is also being recorded for continued reference, and the teacher guide, Katie is also building us another Canvas PD module that will be in the Tech Hub. So if people want to refer back to little videos on pieces of the process, as well as having that opportunity to earn 1 PD hour for going through and completing that checkout and wrap up process, then that can be completed. And that PD module will be available tomorrow, late tomorrow in the Technology Hub for staff.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is posting grades in Power Schools. And so the first thing that we have when we look at posting grades in Power Schools, Michelle, if you want to go to the next slide, we are going to be, there's kind of 2 ways you can do it. So the first way is manually entering assignments and scores. And this may be for something that you're doing in the classroom with your students versus something that you're using Canvas for. I know sometimes I have a written portion to my final that they're actually handing to me and that I'm grading separate from what we're doing in Canvas for them to submit. So just something to consider. You might have manually entered assignments and scores, and that's totally okay. And then there's also the grade sync from Canvas. And as you can see in the image here, we have an example with the assessments where it has kind of, it's like a piece of paper with a little arrow that shows I have synced it from Power Schools into Canvas, that category that I have set up. And then you'll also see where we have highlighted a green circle with a check mark that's not filled in. And that one shows me that I've got it synced to SIS. So 2 different circles. The green solid one means it's published, and then the not filled in one means that it is synced to SIS. So as long as it has that green check mark and it has the paper with the arrow, 2 different ways to check to make sure that we are syncing those grades. And then we also have a slide, the grade sync from Canvas, which is a whole presentation that I'm going to let Michelle kind of walk you through a little bit.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we get the most questions about is how to do the grade sync from Canvas to Power Teacher Pro. And for those of you who are choosing this option, we want to go through this so that you're familiar with the steps for doing it. Like Katie said, you don't have to use the grade sync feature. You can manually enter scores into Power School. It is convenient when you do set it up to have the grades go over automatically. And I also had a question from a kindergarten teacher about whether or not they needed to use it since they don't usually put assignments in, but just do standards. So no, that it wouldn't be necessary in that instance either. But for the many who do want to use Grade Sync and are looking to make sure that everything is ready to go, all the grades are transferred, it doesn't just automatically happen. Your Canvas assignments don't automatically just show up in PowerSchool. There's clicks to make it happen. It is a little bit ninja-like and magic. So the first thing is to create the categories in PowerTeacher Pro. So that's something that we normally do in PowerSchool is set up categories. I know it looks a little bit different this year for our K-8 folks who are new to the online PowerTeacher Pro platform. But just like what we've done before is having the categories in PowerTeacher Pro. And this is true even if you do total grades as you're waiting, is that you still have the categories to identify the assignments. And so you create those categories first, and then you import them. And so that little symbol next to that category on the assignments page that Katie showed us with the screenshot where it had the paper and arrow, that symbol indicates that the category was imported from PowerSchool into Canvas. And that's done by going on the assignment page. So after you set them up in PowerTeacher Pro, you go into Canvas and you import your assignment groups. And so there's these little 3 dots. This is the More menu in Canvas, and then you can import assignment groups. So if you haven't done this step yet and you're wanting to do Grade Sync, you still can. This is something that's fine to do anytime in the year. So you can import those assignment groups, and then those categories will come into Canvas with that little paper and arrow symbol. There is a note here that once you set up your categories in PowerTeacher Pro, that there is a delay of them becoming available from PowerSchool for them to do the import into Canvas. And that's up to 24 hours potentially of a delay. Once you have those categories like this into your Canvas course, then you want to move your assignments into those. And you can move assignments that are synced and ones that are not going to be synced into those categories just to have them organized, or you could use other categories that aren't synced as placeholders for assignments. One of the things though that I see people having confusion on is if they have a coursework category that's synced and one that's imported and one that's not, and then they have assignments that are in one or the other and they don't realize that some of them are not in the one with the paper and arrow. There are 3 different ways for moving the assignments into there, and I'll let you refer to those on here. But moving them in there allows them to actually go over to the Grade Sync. And then as Katie showed us, that little toggle with the check mark and then the green arrows going around, this means that the assignment is enabled for Grade Sync. And you don't have to do this on every assignment. It's just the ones that you want to have go from Canvas over to PowerSchool. One of the things that it does require is that there is a due date. So you want to make sure you have a due date on your assignment. And then it'll also check, it'll also require that the assignment name is less than 50 characters. If it's longer, then it doesn't go over. So those are 2 things, and then you can click that check mark. Now, just clicking that check mark still does not make it so that the assignment goes over. It's just one step in the process. So the next step is to go and sync grades. And so this can be done manually from the grades menu. So you go into the grade section of your course, and then there's actions and select sync to PowerTeacher Pro. That will send your grades over from Canvas to PowerTeacher Pro. There is a little caveat because there's another way to also do this, and I'll show you those in a couple advanced steps, but this is the basic process. Is doing sync to PowerTeacher Pro here. When you do that, it's going to pop up a window and it says, are you sure you want to sync? And you click sync now, and then it'll send those assignments over. Now, once you've synced, it's important to go in and check to see the status, to see, okay, did they actually go? And so on the grade sync section of your course, which you can get to by adding it to your navigation menu, I believe that they might have even added it to the workflow of after you click to sync grade, is that you can click to check the status. But here it shows your grade sync and it shows whether it completed or if it failed. And so when you click on failed, then you can see if there were errors. And the errors, they have a lot of like info on them, but Canvas shared with us this error code dictionary. You can also put in a help desk ticket or reach out to Canvas support if you do have errors and need help with figuring that out. Now, there are some bonus settings that I mentioned. So like going to the grades menu and sending grades is one way to do it. But you can also turn on nightly sync. So that same page where we have the history and we saw the status of if they completed or failed, there's a settings tab and you can check this box that every night it'll send any new scores over automatically, which is great for if you have a quiz that's graded by Canvas and you don't want to have to monitor whether or not a student has gone back and redone that or resubmitted. You just want those scores to transfer over. So that's a great tool to be able to use.
I am going to interject on that one piece. As a teacher who has automatic zeros or 49% or whatever it is that my campus uses at that time, sometimes if I have the nightly sync in and it like puts a 0 in for my students right away and it's like an assessment grade, then that gets pushed to Power Schools. And then I get a lot of upset parent emails first thing in the morning. And so I have found that I will either turn off that automatic grade piece where it can like submit or automatically put in a 0 or automatically put in a 49% if I am using nightly sync, just because I don't want students to feel like they got a 0 for something which maybe I gave them until the end of the week to complete. It just had a due date a little bit earlier. Another thing, as a math teacher, I have to go in a lot and double check their scores on assessments. If they use 3 decimal places, it might mark them wrong. And so I found that for me, nightly sync, I don't always use it in all of my classes. So just another consideration about the other side of the coin too, where it might be frustrating for your students as a possibility. So
great tip. The next tip that's on here is about this button here, remaster grade pass back. And as it shows on here, this will send every grade from your course over. Because when you go to that grades menu and you do sync to Power Teacher Pro, it sadly only includes assignments with a due date of 30 days ago or less. So if a student went back and did something from March at this point, because March was still even in quarter 4 or even, so they might have had a grade adjustment to an assignment from back then. The only way for those things to come over still is to use this remastered grade pass back. And for the high school teachers who might even have stuff that students have been resubmitting or turning in for quarter 3, for those things to go over, even if they're checked to sync, they're only going to go over if you use that remaster grade pass back button. And there's no harm in using that button. You can go and do that as like the regular way that you do it even. It's just another route to be able to sync, and it's made for that purpose of doing the full sync. And Canvas's rationale is that the regular sync from the grade book could process more quickly and get the grades transferred over into Power School if you're just doing the most current things versus the full grade book. And so this will send over anything that is marked for sync in your course. So whether anything that's toggled on. Now, if you make a change to a grade in Power School, know that when you resync that it's going to get overwritten when you do a sync from Canvas. So if you do have an override for something that's a synced assignment, you need to make sure that override is done in Canvas. Otherwise, it's going to get wiped out. So that's another thing that question made me think about, but it's checking to make sure everything is correct. And that's going to be true as far as even just the regular sync, if you make a change in PowerSchool, that it's going to overwrite that score if you sync that assignment again from Canvas. There's also some bonuses here for display settings, because I know students get confused sometimes with the way that grades are displayed in Canvas, and then that grade might not be the same as what they have in PowerSchool. And so there's some tips here on making that not an issue. And there's a couple ways to do that. One of them is just simply to hide grade totals in Canvas. And you can do that just by going to settings and on the course details page, scroll all the way down to more options. And when you click on more options, there's a hide grade totals. And so you can click on that, and then students won't see a calculated grade in Canvas anymore. So that's a great way to do that. Another way to do that, to approach this, is to make the grades match. Now, I know that is a requirement for our online program, is to have them match, because things are so heavily utilized within Canvas. So the way to do that, if you're wanting them to match, is that every assignment needs to be in Canvas. So you would not manually enter anything into PowerSchool. Everything would have to be in Canvas. You would have to, if you have any weighted categories, you would need to weight categories. You would also need to have assignments marked to not be counted in the grade if you have assignments that are just formative and not part of the grade book. So there are more steps if you want to have them match. It is an option to do that. It's not a requirement for most people. I highly recommend just the hide grade totals. And I'm actually looking for ways that we could make that the default for courses going into next school year, to where if a teacher wants to show the grade in Canvas, that they would go and uncheck that box versus having to go and click to hide it. So that's a consideration, because I know people are like, students are getting towards the end, and parents and students are both like, okay, well, what's the grade? And so it's a valuable thing to consider. What is it that is visible to the students and the parents about their grade in your class? There are more resources available. Canvas has guides for doing grade sync to PowerTeacher Pro. They have 3 different guides on it. We have a PowerTeacher Pro gradebook training course. So if you're just needing support with general things with PowerTeacher Pro, this is a course that's listed in, you can click on it from this, and it's also available through the Tech Hub if you click on PowerSchool. And so those are resources for grade sync. But this slide presentation, if you're wondering and you're trying to think how to get back to this, you don't have to go to today's presentation to get it. You can actually get it from the help menu in Canvas. We have these grade sync slides there. So if you or someone else who needs this reference, it's available in the help menu in Canvas. But going back to here, grade sync is an option, or you can just manually enter scores in PowerSchool. So either way, we all report how students what level that students demonstrated their learning at the end of the term. And so that's why this step is included here of posting grades or standards where applicable in PowerSchool.
Wow, Michelle got the big part of the presentation today. Thank you for all that information. We did have a couple questions that came through. We'll follow up at the end of the presentation. So keep them coming. I like all the questions. So number 2, or part 2, is checking your course end date. So in this section, we're going to talk about how to make sure that your course ends at the right time. Okay, so May 20th at 11:59 p.m. is the magic time. So this is the default end date for our courses in Canvas. That's based on the term dates. So for quarter 4, semester 2, and 2020-21 courses, they will end May 20th at 11:59 p.m. For Q1, Q2, Q3, and semester 1 courses, you'll want to also make sure that those ones have already ended as well. This is helpful so that you don't have students that are going back into those courses, right? And we want to just make sure that they're all ended appropriately. So after the course ends, you will still have read-only access. You can't go back and mess with the grades in there or sync to SIS from an old course. And that's just part of how Canvas works. So yeah, next slide. This is what it looks like when you're in your settings of your course. You can go through and show where that end date is. It should already be set, like I said, but just double check that. And you can restrict students from viewing the course after the term end date. Some reasons why you may want to do it. I do that personally because I don't want students to go back and look at old assessments if their friend happens to be taking the same class next semester. However, they can still, as we'll kind of go forward, they can still access submitted files. So we will show you how to do that. So there are a lot of reasons why you may want to or not want your students to access a course, and that is your call as a teacher. It's based on your preference.
And so the default is that term participation, which is what pre-fills the state. So this should already be in here by default. If for some reason it got changed to course, then this would have been like manually entered here, and it can be changed. You can click the calendar and you can change the date, or you could click on this menu and change it back to term, either one. Oh, okay, this is me again. So for checking your course end date, now when your courses end, there's been big questions about, is my course going to go away then? Do I have access to it? What happens? So that's what we're going to talk about now in relation to that end date. So your courses are still going to be in Canvas. What they'll be marked though as a past enrollment. And so past enrollments, those typically get removed from your dashboard. So where you're used to seeing that card on your dashboard, it's not going to appear anymore. So what you'll need to do is to go to the courses in the global navigation, the courses, and then scroll all the way down. So at the very bottom, there's an all courses link at the very bottom. This will take you to the page that has all the courses that you have been enrolled in currently and in the past. So at the top, it'll have your current enrollments. And then at the bottom, it's going to have a section of past enrollment. So when a course ends, it's going to go into those past enrollments. Now, one of the things to consider with that is if you go to that past enrollments right now and you've been a teacher in our district for a while, you're going to see a lot of courses listed there, even if you didn't use them. Because we as a district have been set up with Canvas since 2013. And we have not purged any old courses previously. However, we are making a change to that this year. We are going to, because people are like, I don't want all these courses anymore. And it's excess old data in our system. We are going to be deleting PowerSchool generated courses from the 2017-18 school year and prior this summer. So if and those are only for the courses that were made from PowerSchool. And so those are the ones with like the course codes in the title and are from PowerSchool, and then 2017-18 school year and prior. So those courses will go away. If you're a teacher who has content in a course like that you want to keep, we'll talk about how you can preserve that by making a manually created master or sandbox course. We'll get to that. But your courses will stay in here as a past enrollment for 3 years is what our plan going forward is. So you'll still continue to have that to where you can import content from your past enrollment courses into your other classes that are active.
If any of you have had the pleasure of seeing my crazy list of courses, I am very appreciative for the Mighty Purge this summer because there are quite a few, and I was like, oh, they're all like, it's going to be so cleaned up. But it was a good reminder as a teacher to go back if I had any old courses that I needed a project from, or maybe I needed a student example. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I have all of that now, you know, set up. So, or saved on my computer. I can go ahead and cover this one, Michelle.
Okay, go ahead.
So on this one, this is a comment that I had made previously about student access to their submission history. So I do not allow my students to go back in and see their course, and they still have access though to their personal file submission history in their Canvas accounts, and they can access that in their global navigation up at the top where their picture is, and they have their settings there. You can see where we've highlighted the files, and in there, if we go to the next slide, it will show you how under submissions, under my files, you can see this student in Algebra 1 Honors is still able to see the videos that they posted, assignment pictures that they may have put in, anything like that. I did notice something, again, math teacher here, just want to make sure my tests are as secure as possible. I noticed that not any of the test question submissions were in there. So it was only ones that they did as an actual assignment or maybe a discussion board. Those were the only files that are actually in that submission section.
All right, so one of the things that we mentioned is creating a master or sandbox course. So your class from the school year is going to close, and it closes so that you don't make any edits to what happened in that live course, and that record is maintained. But we know that our next year courses are not available to start working in yet. And just a side comment on that is that this year, some weird thing happened between PowerSchool and Canvas that some teachers are already seeing course sections for the 2021-22 school year. Those sections were populated based on when they started to set up PowerSchools for next year. They just made a duplicate of this year's PowerSchool courses and sections. And so that populated a course section for next year that mirrors what teachers are currently in. So if you're not going to be teaching that same thing or at the same school, you definitely don't want to use those. But even if you are, we advise against using your 2021-22 courses until you get confirmation in July that your campus has finalized schedules. Because if they make a change in PowerSchool, it can remove your access to that section. It doesn't delete that section. It just goes into an area that only we as an admin can get to, and you can't get to it anymore. And we don't want you to have that disconnect time from being able to have access to your content. So you don't want to build in any 21-22 course shells until your campus registrar has confirmed that schedules are finalized. So in the meantime, you can't use this year's, you can't use next year. So what do? If you want to be able to work and set up your Canvas courses beforehand, you can create a master or sandbox course. And this is actually useful even during the school year to be able to have a zone where you're editing and making adjustments to things and then finalizing it before bringing it into your own course. So you can create that master sandbox course so that you can design and create that content over the summer. And there's two ways to do this. So you can create a brand new course, or you can make a copy of an existing course. So we'll talk about each of these. The first one, Katie's going to go through how to do this.
Perfect. So the first one's creating a new course. So you can create as many courses as you want. I am super excited about the like 50 million that I have made over the years. But I do go back and delete them as, as time sees fit, which is nice because there's no students in them. And so I don't feel bad about deleting it when I don't need it anymore. If I make an accidental copy or whatever, I'm able to easily make or delete as many courses as I want. Just remember to name them appropriately. I cannot tell you how many college math master courses I have, and it takes me a good amount of time to actually figure out the one that I am using this year. And so it's really, it'll just save you a headache later later on if you just name them as whatever is going to work for you. I also sometimes will name them with like a star in before them, because then that will be the first thing that pops up in my course list. So just a little trick on the back end so that it actually pops up first, and that star will kind of put it up to the front of the line. Also using numbers, it's alphanumeric, like it's alphabetical. So the numbers or the star kind of help it if you're sorting them. And so here's an example, your school or teacher name, the subject, what grade it is, and then what year you're using it for. You don't have to name it this way. This is just an example of something that might work for you. To start that new course, when you open up your dashboard or you open up Canvas, on the right-hand side under the to-do list and under what's coming up next, there's a button that says Start a New Course. And so you should be able to see that there. I believe we're all teachers here, but if for some reason that is not coming up for you, you do have to be a teacher in an existing course, Sandbox course, a PLC course, a anywhere course, any course, in order for you to be able to see that button. So you do have to be designated as a teacher within Canvas in order for you to see that button.
So I'm going to chime in here on, you'll notice that example one has school/teacher name. Now, the reason why you might do school name instead of your teacher name is if you wanted to have one that's shared with your level team at your campus. So you can add other teachers to your courses. So if you wanted to have a shared sandbox that you're working together with your PLC, so that you are each prepping the content together and each looking at it, you could do a shared one. I know a lot of our high school level teams at the high school campuses do that, where they have a shared master course for their team, and then they work on building the content and then pull that content from their sandbox or master course into their live PowerSchool courses. And Katie's going to show us how to do that.
All right, so to copy content from an existing course, so one that you already have, you can import all of that course content from the previous year or select specific content from past courses. I sometimes change up my syllabus or my homepage, or maybe I just want one module from this master or this course and I want one module from here, so I kind of pick and choose what I want, or I can do the whole course, which is really nice feature also. So you can, once I'm in that Sandbox course, there is a button on the home page, like right when you log in, that says import existing content. And so you can actually click on that and it will take you to a copy page.
So there's two ways to do the copying of the content. And one of them is going to be from the course that already has the content. And then the other one is going to be the course you want to pull the content into. So this particular one where it's import existing content, this would be in your course for next year that you're actually in, that you want to pull the content into, that you would do the import existing content button. And so then you say, I want to pull it from my Sandbox, or I want to pull it from the course build shared course and bring that in. And then you can choose to pull over pieces of that into your course, or you can pull over the full thing. While we're on this slide, one of the things that I want to point out is there are some changes to the way that we're sharing course build content for the 21-22 school year. This year in 2020-21, we used Blueprint courses, which pushed content out into the K-6 teachers' course shells. It was kind of a training wheels approach to getting content into teachers' Canvas courses and helping teachers get going with using Canvas with starting the year virtually. We did find there was some challenges with that, with things like the module flexibility, the text headers, things like that. So we evaluated other options as we look to next school year. And what we've decided is that we're making course shares, which is the method that we used with our 7 to 12 courses, where there was a shared course and then teachers requested access to that course. They were added as a TA, and then they just did this import existing content from the courses that they're teaching. So this import existing content is going to be your friend next school year, so that you can click that and then you can pull modules in from those shared courses. And I do want you to know that the content for next year, it is going through updates and revisions currently. We have our Q1 course content in a revision cycle currently, because there's a lot that we learned from getting started with course building and rolling it out that we want to go back and strengthen up that Q1 content and structure. And then that will be in the shared course. Our plan for getting that content out to teachers is that the week of May 17th, we'll be posting an announcement in Canvas with the Google form link, where you can select the courses that you want to have access to the shared content. Once you complete that form, we learned how to do some scripting from a partner district. And as soon as you complete that form, you'll automatically get added in to that shared course as a TA. And you don't have to wait then for us to go through and add you. So you can do that form, get access to that shared course, and be able to start looking at it and importing content into your own.
And Michelle, will those pop up on their dashboards, or will that be in their list of all courses?
So I believe those will show up on their dashboard once they're added in as a TA. But if you don't see it for some reason, you will want to check that all courses list if it doesn't show up and you've done that form. And then one of the things to note also is that because we are going through a revision cycle, and we also know that there may be improvements we want to make to Q2, 3, 4 content. Content will continue to be added into that shared course during the year. And so that will be your place to go and check for the Canvas lessons to be able to pull them into your own course. And you can pull them directly into your PowerSchool course from there, or you might want to pull them into your Sandbox course.
Now, one nice feature about this Google form that Michelle, I mean, how many hours, but I can't even imagine how she did it because it is amazing and beautiful. If you teach a like walk up to math, or you have like walk up to math students, or maybe you needed to pull content from another grade level for some reason, you will also be able to request other courses, correct, Michelle? So if I was, okay, perfect.
Yeah, and that was one of the things also this school year that we learned. We even had to make the shared courses for our special education staff so they could have access to the content. And so we ended up making shared courses anyway for them, and ended up having 2 systems going in tandem because of realizing that need for providing those course shares. So we're doing it all through course shares this next year so that you can identify the content that you need access to and pull that into your class. It also gives you more ownership as the teacher over your course and the content that you're putting in there for your students.
Okay, so kind of further going from there, we started with copying content from that course, and you can click that button on your home page or your main page when you pull into your course. And then once you click there, it'll take you to a screen which will allow you to import content. And as you can see, I have it in a red rectangle. It says copy a Canvas course. And from there, I can search for that course. This is where making sure your names are on point, because you want to make sure that you're importing from the correct course. And so if you start typing in that name, it'll actually start to autofill below for you some options of what you may be trying to type in. And you can also see there's a check mark that says include completed courses, which is nice. So those courses that we were just talking about that are become read only, you can still copy content from those. And so that's kind of a nice feature. Then below that, you'll see you can select all content or select specific content. So this was another example I was talking about where maybe I just want to select one module for now. Or maybe I really liked my SEL module from this course, or I want the whole course. So you have a lot of different options here. And then one of my favorite things to use is where it says the adjust events and due dates button. We don't have a picture of that right here on this slide, but that is super nice. If all my due dates are going to change by just a couple days, there's actually a way that Canvas, it doesn't always work 100%, but if I'm like, hey, we started last school year on August 5th, and this year we're starting on August 2nd, it will actually kind of move your dates for you all in one fell swoop when you're importing that content. It doesn't work 100%. I would say I have like a 75% success rate, but at least it's a start for me. But I generally now get to the point where I just clear all of my due dates so that I can just reset them in the assignments page since it's all in one place. That was more beneficial back in the old days in Canvas where there wasn't an easy way to adjust all your due dates in one spot. And so that was really nice to have that back then. But now you don't really need it anymore. So I usually will just clear out all of my due dates.
Would you continue on using that same checkbox and then choosing remove due dates?
Yep, absolutely. And then you just click import, and then it'll usually say like queue, and then it'll start processing, and it'll give you a really awesome green button when it's all done. And then sometimes it will have like, it'll have like yellow, like that there was some errors as it was pushing through. Generally speaking, when I do that, it's because I didn't have a due date on something and I had it as synced to SIS, and now it's not going to do that because you have to have a due date to those things. But I do always go through and at least read through those cautions just to make sure that it will pick up on like missing links, or maybe I didn't connect my homepage and yet I have somewhere in a module that was linking to my homepage. So just something to look out for. If you do get those, caution, you might want to just look to see what it is that was an error as it was syncing over or importing over.
So one of the cool things that I learned this year is that on this course name, if you have too many courses, like it doesn't just give you a drop-down list, it just has it where you have to like type it and find it. But I learned this year that you can look at that number that's in the URL for your course. That's the course ID number. And you can put that number in here and it'll find that course for you. So that's a nice, nice shortcut that I learned. I also want to point out that while this says option 2, copy a Canvas course, this is really like the step 2 in option 1, because the other way to do this instead of clicking on start a new course is you can also go into the settings of a course and you can click to create a copy of a course and it'll pull everything from that class. And all you do is give it a name. So that's another way to do it if you're wanting to pull absolutely everything. And that would only be the first initial time that you're setting up your master or Sandbox. Otherwise, the start a new course is a great way to go. And that's why we put it here first, is because this is the cleanest way to do it, is to just make a fresh new course and just bring in the stuff that you want, because things get built up and can get excessive in a course, and you don't always want all the extra pieces.
And I know we're all super excited about making copies of courses right now, but just a little caution, if you can just wait like another week or two, we will be pushing out, like Michelle said, that first couple of weeks of Q1 content. So if you can wait, it is amazing how far we have grown as a course building team from Q1. If you guys go back and look at your Q1 and you look at your Q4, there is a huge difference in progression. It's awesome to see, just the growth that our teams have had. And so if you can be patient a little bit, unless it's something personalized that you want to pull over, I would just wait at least another week or two to pull over that Q1, the first couple weeks of Q1.
And that would be another reason why we would encourage using the option where you're creating that fresh course and pulling in content so that you're not pulling over the old content that you're going to have updated versions available to you. So this is really the way that we encourage you to do it, is that start a new course, then do that import existing content, and then you can choose all content or select specific. Now, when you do that select specific, it's not going to process automatically. It's going to give you a select content button. And then once you click on that, you choose which things you want to bring over. So you can click on modules and expand it and say, I want this module. You don't have to bring over all the modules at one time. You can just pick one module or 2 modules, however many that it is that you want to bring over. All right, so next school year. I know we're just wrapping up this year, but as many are starting to think about, what you're doing for summer, how you're getting ready for next school year, we wanted to speak to this piece as well about planning for next school year. And we've said some of these things already, but we'll go through this part here with you, is that your Power School shells, those will be available in July. You might see some now, but wait until July when your campus registrar confirms that schedules are finalized. And then for next school year, you're going to import content into your Power Schools courses. You can import from your master Sandbox course that you create. You could import from the shared district build courses that you'll have access to the week of May 17th. Or you could import from last year's completed courses, or a combination of all of those, really. So you have that ownership of pulling in content from multiple places. If you have a colleague who's added you to one of their courses, you will be able to import from their courses too. We do have a teacher guide to starting a new course in Canvas that goes through the steps for getting ready and pulling content in and doing some settings. It's similar to our end of year teacher guide. So that is a resource that's available for you when you are getting to that point in July of having that teacher guide to starting a new course. Now, an important note is we've shown you how to create a Sandbox or master course. You do not add students to your Sandbox or master course. Those are not the courses that we use for teaching. You're going to use your Power School generated course once it's confirmed and available. So you'll be importing that content into the new course shell once it's available.
Okay, next we're going to be looking at Canvas support. As you're going through this, you're like, oh no, I can reference, you guys can always reference this slide or the 103 module that's going to be created in the Tech Hub. But if we go on to the next slide, we're going to show you how to access that Canvas support. Not only do you have the Tech Hub for staff that you can access at any time of the day or evening, but we also have that Canvas support 24/7. And this is basically where you're able to receive that personalized assistance using the Canvas help menu. If you can, on the actual slide, if you look at it, I did put a picture in there really quick. So when you're seeing that live, you'll be able to see where it is. And it's just in your global navigation, which is that bar on the very left-hand side of Canvas. And in there, if you click on help, it actually has a option to report a problem. So if Canvas is doing something wonky, also you can chat live with the Canvas support, or you can even call them. So you have a couple options. Obviously, end of the year, beginning of the year, there may be a long wait time. So I have found personally that doing the live chat usually is my fastest way of at least getting a hold of someone. But I also have had success calling as well. It just kind of depends on the day and time and what I need help with. And so also, like I said, that submit a ticket, I have submitted quite a few. And I feel like I usually get a very quick response, you know, in order to help me. So.
And the Canvas support, it is a paid service that our district purchases along with our Canvas licenses. So it's a service that is being already paid for. Don't feel bad about using it in any way. We want you to use it. Please contact them about any questions that you have on Canvas. And it doesn't have to be, you know, during the daytime because they're 24/7. So you don't have to wait for a response from somebody. You can get on that chat, you can call them, and you can be able to troubleshoot and figure things out right away. They'll look at a course page. If you're like, I don't understand why my students are having this error, and you tell them what it is, they can look at that with you and help figure that out. Or if you're like, okay, I'm trying to do this in my course, but I just can't figure it out, they can also walk you through that. So they are very helpful. If for some reason you find that like your person you connect with is like not exactly sure on that one thing that you're asking them, because there are so many things that can be done in Canvas, you can just thank them and then then jump back in and contact another person, because they've grown their support over the last year. And so some of them are super experts on things that even like will teach me how to do some back end coding things to make things happen. And some of them don't have those skills. So I just try and get the right person who knows the thing that I'm asking. But most of them know the basics for, like, you know, managing content in a course and all that kind of stuff. And they can also help you with grade sync types of things as well, and importing content. So all the things that we covered here, they can also support you through each of these steps. In addition to the new module that's going to be available in the Technology Hub, the Canvas 103 that focuses on wrapping up the school year, we also have 6 other Canvas modules in our Technology Hub. And they go through some of the preliminary things of getting started with Canvas, up through using more advanced things with assignments, discussions, external tools, and more. So there's a lot of resources in there. So if you're looking to grow your skills with Canvas over the summer, you can get in there and you can keep doing those Tech Hub modules. There's digital badges that are available through doing that. When you complete a module, then you get 1 hour of PD that gets documented in Frontline. And we're also developing some additional incentive or reward levels for people as they complete multiple of the Tech Hub modules. All right, so that is the information that we have for sharing with you. There was a question in the chat already that I want to bring attention to, is that end of year wrapping up Canvas teacher guide. That is linked in these slides. It's on the agenda one from today's presentation. It's also has been linked in the last DV Voice and the next one coming up. And then it's also going to be available in the new Canvas 103 end of school year module. So that teacher guide, very, very useful for going through these 3 steps. And let's see here. So what we'll do now is we'll transition to Q&A and help you through those questions. We'll also look back in the chat for other questions that were asked there, and we'll go through those.